everyone. This is Samir Singh Jaini here from the Digital Fifth. Welcome on board on another in-depth webinar, primarily focused on usage of real data, usage of real understanding on how platforms are built, and also we will talk about the things which typically we talk separately, which is AIML for underwriting. So I think we wanted to bring it all together into one structure, and we thought it would be good to have a banker on board, and we are having Jignesh on board, who's sort of very. I mean, given that his background with a large bank, he knows a lot about how digital lending can be built at scale. We have Ketan joining us, who sort of has been from old world, building a completely new digital platform on board, and then of course doing lending on top of that and partnering with the ecosystem. It's a very different ecosystem for them. And then of course our own Ram is there. So Ram, given his deep background in building Perfios, and Sabya as well, again from end-to-end engagement between I think Ram and Sabya, they will know more about lending than maybe I would ever know in my life. So I think their depth is so good. So I think what we will do in this session today is to learn about their concept, their thought process, and that's the intent. So thanks again to everyone who has joined here, and we start right away as such. And I think thanks Sabya, thanks Jignesh, and thanks Ram for joining us. Thank you guys, and we will just quickly go ahead and then we'll introduce you very shortly. I think before we start, I think the framework which we have today, this whole event has been sort of guided us by the InteGREAT team, the Perfios team. So I think they have now a new brand coming on board, which takes care of both onboarding from a data perspective, as well as platform, as well as on the decision side as well. So we'll talk about it later, and I'm sure the leadership will guide us on that. Uh, a quick introduction on us. I mean, from the digital perspective, we are the largest fintech consulting, maybe probably in Asia. And we are primarily focused only on BFSI domains. So BFSI and digital is the only place where we sort of work on. We unique that extent that I think not too many guys in this business. So while we always said we are the first and largest, I don't even know if there is second and third existing. Not that I'm talking from too much of proud, but the point is this ecosystem is small, not very large. So I may not be too many guys jumping in. It's top business. We do primarily consulting, so we work with a lot of banks and fintechs in the ecosystem, including bureaus and platforms. So it is almost like a democratization of consulting. So we work much more sharply on a topic of interest on digital lending, on open banking and stuff like that. And we've been able to build a lot of embedded finance systems for people. We do a lot of partnerships, so go to market for a lot of fintechs, for a lot of large NBFC and players. We actually do a go to market for getting them fintechs partners. We do trainings, maybe the largest trainers in the world, and we do some bit of hiring as well, specifically only in the fintech domain and digital domain. So that's largely us. I'll not bore you with who we are anymore. I think that let's come back to the agenda immediately, which is the idea itself today is to figure out how do we lend right? How do you use the power of data with the platform, right? An integrated platform is what we are looking at. Single platform in which you can get data, you can do underwriting, and then you do the entire sort of disbursement and entire LOS, LMS, and the whole process, right? We'll talk about data, we'll talk about platforms, and the point is, where do we go from there as we look forward, right? I think at this point of time, maybe a quick introduction we would like to do. So Jignesh, would you want to, and thanks for joining us, Jignesh, and would you can just quickly introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, thanks to Digital Fifth and thanks to Perfios team for having me here. I'm hoping I'm audible.
Yes.
Yeah. So I work with Kotak Mahindra Bank, as the screen says. I have been with the bank since October 2007. Currently, I am a keen, I would say, I'm very keen to learn and develop solutions on digital lending for Kotak Mahindra Bank. Right, that's my job. What I do, that how can I improve customers' life, my channel life, my partner's life, to in such a way that digital lending becomes very easy for everybody. At the same point of time, the risk which the institution wants to take does not increase at all, right? So that's what I do for my living. And thanks for having me here.
Thank you, Jignesh. And I think we have but a bit of a commonality. I was also part of the bank on digital side, but way back. I think, as usual, I'm oldest in the group. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. Then maybe Ketan has not been able to join us. He will join a bit late because he's unwell, but he will definitely join in few minutes. He said that because of his health issue, he'll just be able to join for a few minutes.
Hi Samir. Hi Samir. I just joined.
Yeah, thank you.
No,
Uh,
no, no. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I don't know why your name is coming as Neeraj Amin. I will fix that up as well as we go forward. Thanks, Ketan, for joining. And maybe quick introduction will be good because you are one of those who's building a platform afresh and able to contribute a lot. So maybe quick introduction will be great, Ketan.
Sure. So, hello everyone. It's a privilege to be here. I am the director of Arvo Finance as well as director of Pogmore Gold. And Arvo is an NBFC, and we have lending products which include credit loans, gold loans, and personal loans. And Arvo Gold, we provide technology to enable gold loans. Uh, Obviously, the whole topic is around data and the use of technology for lending business and otherwise. I'm just going to tell you a lot about this later. But I've been in the business, gold business, for 17 years now. We started lending through Arvo in the last 2 years for retail loans, including gold loans and education loans. And technology is the key behind all this. What is happening? The changes that we are seeing in the last couple of years, especially because of the pandemic, is obviously helping the business further. Samir, as you already aware, the platform is something that we are using for end-to-end enablement of loans without any paperwork. And that I think is revolutionary because this is just the start of the fintech revolution in India.
Thank you, Ketan, for joining us. Thank you. And I had to take your video off because I think we were not able to hear much. So yeah, it went off then perfectly well. Well. So maybe a quick introduction from your side, Ram.
Hey, Samir, thanks a lot again for partnering with us and hosting this event. And Jignesh and Chetan, thanks a lot for and welcome aboard. So, yeah, quick part. I've been with Perfios for now almost 11 years. It's been a very interesting journey. Currently, as a CEO, I look at the product and then also the whole customer delivery in terms of how we deliver the solutions to customers. And given the variety of customers that we deal with 270 plus and 13 countries, I get to see a lot of interesting new things which is happening. So it's in a very, I would say it's a very interesting role and a very interesting time. Thank you.
Yeah, and over to you, Sabya, please.
Hi everyone, and thanks Jignesh and Ketan for joining us this afternoon. I take care of the business and growth part of the company, Perfios, and obviously my primary focus is how do I give a better customer experience. Now, while we are discussing today InteGREAT and what experience each of us as an institution would want to give to our customers, it is pretty much the same when we are trying to solve the problems together, sitting across with y'all, how we can solve this problem for customers and deliver a better customer experience. So I think pretty much that's what excites me, and that is what I look forward, new problems. And as Jignesh, Ketan all told, that technology and fintech is in the forefront. So it keeps us awake. The more the problems, it keeps us awake, and we try to find innovative solutions. So that's where primary time of both Ram and me both goes. We work very closely on each dimension, and I think that's where our time goes. Thanks, Abhi, for having us.
Thank you. And one benefit of age, right? I've worked with Kotak. I've worked with Ketan as well, and worked with Perfios as well. So I think age ka bada fayda hai, right? You have I mean, somebody was asking, what is the history of checks? I said, let me talk. Okay, so I am the history, right? So that's that bad. So yeah, okay, let's come back to how do you lend, right? I think that's a critical point. Platform ko kya kare, kaise kare, kyun kare? How do you build a platform? And in a world where we talk about data, which we need to have a good insight of data. Somebody was just talking about data in the previous session. I said, boss, for financial crimes, you don't need separate data. the data is the same for underwriting and for this and for that. And maybe when we look at collections also, collection data can be used for underwriting, right? Because that collection is nothing but the underwriting slippages, right? So I think the world is simple. So data is something which we need all the time. And how do you sort of convert this into real decisioning? So data and decisioning is together. And also from a platform perspective, I will be honest that how do you build a platform which does not feel like a platform? Does not feel to the customer that there's any platform. He needs to have a seamless experience. And as a seamless, I think it should be really seamless. It को पता ही नहीं चलना चाहिए कि there is anything platform existing, right? नहीं तो आपको पता लग जाएगा when you start clicking. Oh, Mumbai is not coming properly, right? Because somewhere we have not done it well, and it comes up all the time. So how do you ensure that the platform is sort of uniquely positioned? Also to the extent that we can handle all products, right? I mean, the customer is just one, and we underwrite the customer for each individual product separately. Onboarding is separately. Why can't we have a single onboarding and process? So I think the world is very, very different from what we think, and we have to do a lot of catch up. But these platforms are very critical from a data perspective, underwriting perspective, as well as from the whole platform, from LOS, LMS, and entire piece. So I think at this point of time, maybe from a key role from data perspective, I just want to ask this question, saying that what kind of role data plays, and maybe Jignesh, you have been dealing with it because you have a immense amount of data and all the underwriting. So कहाँ से data लेके आएंगे, कैसे use करेंगे? How do you build around that, and how do you keep churning the model around that? So maybe a quick thought on data and data insights will be good for us.
Yeah. So, digital lending, the role of data in digital lending has only increased, right? Because it's faceless lending, right? Having said that, it brings a lot of new opportunities and a lot of new data also for us, right? Earlier time before digital lending, if you speak to people, they'll say, okay, we get all the physical data, we get bank statement, we get balance sheet. There was no bureau also earlier, but then bureau came. So some bit of banking, balance sheet, bureau, those kind of data was there. Now, digital lending, though it became faceless, because of it being digital, it opened up and got a lot more sources of data to us, right? Which I would broadly classify as a non-financial data, right? So data which I get from government agencies, right? Data which, for example, is somebody filing the GST return on time? There is no financial data in that, right? It is a non-financial. Is somebody filing the GST return on time? Is somebody registered with GST, right? When did the company register? When did the GST registration happen, right? These are all non-financial data. Then other non-financial data which we use exhaustively, telecom data, right? Telecom data, right? This telephone number or this mobile number, which is the starting point of all digital journeys generally, it belongs to whom, right? Again, it's non-financial data, right? Then going further on the mobile data again also gives you very, very rich insights. Like Samir said that data can be used for anything, right? So it will give you that what kind of mobile phone I have, what kind of apps do I use, and through the mobile phone, obviously with complete customer consent and transparency, which at least as an organization we believe fully in, you can also get financial data, right? So digital has kind of exploded how data you can receive and what data you can receive. It's really exploded. So the rich insights which one gets through data, the digital data completely takes care of the fact that it is a faceless lending, right? That's the role of data in digital lending, if I have to summarize it.
Okay, this is good. This is good. Maybe from Ram, from your perspective, maybe you can give your insight because you are the provider of data and you have been providing data maybe across so many organizations. So, what's your take on that?
Yeah, sure, Samit. See, I think like what Jignesh talked about, right? Faceless data. So the engagement is faceless. Now, earlier when there was interaction, you were sitting in front of the applicant, right? You kind of visited their house or you visited the office. Knew the locality that was in, right? Now, if you're trying to when you're building this whole digital journey, you have taken the idea is about convenience that I should be able, just like I can order a meal at 2 a.m. in the morning, or I can basically buy a phone at 2 a.m. in the morning, I should be able to apply for a loan and get a loan at 2 a.m. in the morning. Okay, right? Now, when that is a part of it, and then when you want, but then all your processes of lending decisioning still has to be complied to. So which means that you have to establish the identity, you have to establish the residence, you have to establish the employment, or if someone is a business, his ownership, right? And then also the intent, right? Financial data gives you the intent about ability to pay, right? Now, the behavioral aspect is his intent to repayment. Now, which is where we look at different kinds of data coming in. So you have obviously like financial is straightforward, your bank statement, ITR, salary slip, bureau, right? I mean, attached documents, all those things, right? Whether it is a individual salaried person or it is a self-employed professional or it's a small business or a large corporate. You have these financial data which are available, and most of the data are now available in some form or the other, either in digital or in physical, which is being digitized. And that is what we kind of started off catering for, right? But beyond that is the behavioral. Now, the other part is also, right? One of the other thing is digital also meant that I can like now do a lending which is on really bite size. I mean, just to think of the fact is like, Samir, you talk about being old. I'm also very old, right? Okay, I don't think in the lending business, even 5 years ago, someone would have thought about the fact is I would have a personal loan which is less than 3 lakhs, right? But today you have people who are giving a line of credit of 10,000 rupees. Okay. Now for 10,000 rupees, we can't spend 1,000 rupees in acquiring data, processing and all those things, right? So which again becomes a factor. Then you're looking at other data. And because it is faceless, how do you establish credentials of the borrower? Okay. His behavior, like as simple as this, looking at transactional behavior on a e-commerce platform, whether it's a Flipkart or whether it's a Swiggy, or basically how long has he been employed with the company. These all become aspects of behavior. Okay. And that is where we look at data, financial and credit history, which is this thing. Then you have non-credit transactions, which might be coming from a device. It might be demography. It might be economic. I mean, there are companies today which give you saying that given a pin code, I will give you the luminosity. Okay. What is the electricity consumption? From that, you determine the affluence of the area. I know in Mumbai, it will not hold true because you have the Juggi Jopdi right next to this thing, even Ambani's palace, right? Okay, which is the part of it. So you can obviously identify the part, but those become interesting information, right? Footfall. If you're looking at and small business, right? And the other part is the larger part of it, like I talked about, the fact is you're changing the, you can lend up to even small amount as 10,000. There's a large part of aspirational India, okay? And your Bharat, which is where is the most of the bulk of the growth and all those things is, because the rest of the markets are this thing saturated and growing, right? There you will not find credit, you will not find too much of financial. Now, how do you figure out what data do you use to determine the income? Okay, and what is the intent of behavior? Now, if someone is, it could be as simple as this: your nukkad teeth, wala, right? Okay. Now he'll be doing lot of transactions in cash. Okay, like what Bank of Baroda introduced the program to fund the street side vendors. Okay, they were looking, the fact is, what is the number of visitors who are coming to the shop? Okay, right? Is he there regularly? Is he there from 6 a.m. 7?
You're on mute. Sorry.
So that's a part of it. That is where data becomes important. So what we have done is we have built this whole mechanism of acquiring all these data, curating them, and then providing them for analysis.
Okay. Excellent. Thanks. So this is good. I think I got some new insights on that. Now, the problem with data is there's so much there, and we don't know where to fill in. And everybody talks about, but banana mushkil, आसान नहीं है. And also when you convert into a real output, आपको पता नहीं है behavior कैसे देगा. हम बोल तो सकते हैं कि ऐसा होने वाला है, but जब होता है तो जान निकल जाती है. So this is my very practical aspect. Then when NPA happens, everybody runs to the different doors, right? ये क्यों गलती हुई? But anyway, so let's move on to the next one, which is platforms, right? I think the point is that we had this framework, and I'm talking about the not so far back, 5 years, 6 years back, when you had I mean, we were looking at a single platform for SME platform and this platform and end-to-end journeys and build it like that. We always thought of back office. Actually, nobody had the idea that how do the front office will work, how will the customer onboard. It was assumed that customer file is already in the table, and then we'll start, right? Which means the engagement with the customer was very little. It was file coming across, and with for a PL or this or that, I think we were doing it manually. Now in the digital lending journey, the challenge is very simple. the kind of models, are you digitizing your own current journeys, right? You may have your own platforms, or maybe you're doing, let's say a large bank when it wants to digitize, and most of them are doing right now like crazy, right? How do they go about doing it? Do they use their current platform, or do they have to find a different platform? From a journey perspective, they may think about journey saying that, okay, I have never launched a PL program, right? Now PL program I want to launch right away. And when PL program, how do you ensure that PL is issued, it's consumed as well? So then you need to tie up with, let's say, e-com giants. How do you integrate with them, or maybe third party, right? So banks will do a partnership with fintechs, and how do you digitize and onboard those? Nahi to KYC us platform pe hoga, data will come to your platform. Underwriting has to happen on a real time basis, and you need to go back, and then you have to reconcile. Then there is a concept of co-lending. Then there is a P2P lending framework. Then there's also invoice discounting. There are tons of areas and frameworks and products existing. All of them have a different flavor. How do you sort of support it? I think all I'm trying to convey is that I still meet people who are saying, "Can I have a single platform with which we can go live in three months, and then next 12 months can we ramp up to 3,000 crores or 2,000 crores?" I think those discussions when I hear, मुझे डर लगता है कि ये कौन सी दुनिया है, उतना ही NPA हो जाएगा, right? पता नहीं क्या होगा, किसी को तो disburse हो जाएगा. So coming to the point is, I think at this point of time, when you look at it, maybe this question goes to Ketan first. When you looked at the platform, and you look at the platform, which platform to take, how do you go ahead and use it? So what is the thought process on which platform to do? How do you evaluate the platform for lending, and what are challenges you would have faced on your thought process, or how others will face as well? So over to you, Ketan.
Yeah, Samir, thank you. So, see, Samir, if you go to see the traditional means of businesses that we were doing in lending, if you go to see, the strengths were always very local. We always seen local lending companies were more successful than a company trying to be national or more in more multiple regions. The reason was people in the local areas were able to pick data. It was in a traditional way. They used to understand the data, what is the ability, what is the willingness, how much is that person able to earn, what are the kind of assets he has, what kind of social status he has, for which he will be able to pay and on. Now all that obviously was not scalable, and that's why you had too many regional players or local players who were very successful. In the world of digital lending, where obviously data is available, and you have to scrub the data in a way that you are able to use it in the right way, because sometimes the problem is there is too much data available and you don't know how to use it. Luckily, what is happening is, at the macro level, the Indian government is playing a major role, whether it's India Stack or whether it's Aadhaar based details that we have been able to centralize. Now, a simple example is now CoWIN as a platform. We are offering to 140 countries as an open source. And same is the case with our other data availability. Today, when you have to decide on a platform or anything, India luckily has access to a large database, and it's only going to increase because of the India Stack, which is basically paperless and Aadhaar-based authentication and all. And fortunately, players who have been able to forward and backward integrate, like obviously Perfios is one great example, where they have developed a platform where you're able to integrate multiple things. So you need the core to be right, and as and when new and new developments are happening, things can be integrated. A simple thing is, like for example, in gold loans, data points which were required was more about the ability and willingness related to their scores, related to the kind of funding that they are getting in their bank accounts. So all those things, we had to make sure that we have a core which is very strong, and then we are able to integrate. Similarly, for education loans, we have to make sure that the parents are able to make their payments, and it was all about the kind of earnings that they had. Like traditionally, banks were able to judge that better only with salaried employees, but because of these new age platforms, you are able to do it better for even for self-employed.
I think this is good. This is good. I think self-employed typically don't get any money. And my recent experience was one of the largest bank is when I applied, I applied in front of my team, and I tried to apply and take a loan. They didn't give it to me. Then and there, the moment I said I was a MSME, just refused. And I have an account with them for 20 years. When I log in, it is available. But if pre-login, if you try, it was not available. So I think the world is still very difficult for MSME. Now, I think the same question maybe is because Jignesh, you work in a very different and very large framework, right? Which is, as a bank, you have sort of tons of balance sheet to be sort of pushed through these platforms and multiple products, right? So how do you evaluate? And maybe as part of the evaluation process, you can also come back saying later on, you may have also those regrets ki liya kyon. So what are challenges you face? Because business bolega कि अभी live करेंगे अगले 3 महीने में. What does it take? So maybe both evaluation as well as the challenges faced in doing it.
Right. So first and foremost on the evaluation framework, one has to keep in mind that platforms which are used for the end-to-end underwriting of various loan products are not changeable easily, right? So it's a one-way door in a way, right? It's not a two-way door. कि आज दिया नहीं चला तो कल बदल दिया. That's not happening, right? So one has to be very, very clear that this is a long-term strategic decision for the organization. I am not talking about a large company or a small company, any company which is into lending, right? This is a long-term strategic decision. One has to keep that in mind. So if you start thinking from that perspective, obviously making a platform from scratch for a bank like us is ruled out, right? We are not a technology company. So most companies like us, they will go to a particular partner, look at the platforms, etc. So if you ask me evaluation framework, I would say from past experience that pedigree is very, very important, right? Pedigree of your service platform provider is extremely important. He may not have everything what you want. Nobody will have, no platform, no, if you go on a product path, no product will have the complete stack which you need. It's impossible, right? Product is always built with the point of version 1, version 2 and scale up which the product vendor will do. So therefore, it's very important that the pedigree and the stability of your partner is very, very deeply evaluated. This I'm talking from experience because like I say, it's a one-way door. It's not a two-way door, right? Like Samir said, it takes months to implement the system, few months to stabilize, and after which the scale up happens, right? And then the scale up will keep happening across product lines, right? And various changes which will take up. So I would say pedigree is extremely important, and therefore the stability of your platform provider. Secondly, I would say now, if somebody is looking at a platform to be implemented now, right? Players like us, we have systems which were like born when there was no cloud. Okay, they were born and brought up as systems when there was no cloud. But now, if you have to look at this, I would really urge you that you should only and only look at a platform which is cloud ready. Okay, because like in digital lending, you need very fast customization changes. Sabya and Ram explained a very complex slide on how many sources of data you can consume. Right, more and more of these things will lead you to what? A stable, steady, and a platform which can be changed faster. Right, you can't have a customization CR running in 4 months. Right, आज risk ने sign off किया कि ये data use करेंगे, but by the time you put it into your BRE and the decisioning happens, it is 6 months. Right, this will traditionally happen if there is an old platform and to change it is like an open heart surgery, right? However, if you take new cloud ready platforms, they will also take time to change. Nothing comes overnight, right? But cloud ready definitely comes with much more agility and better speed, right? So cloud ready pedigree of the partner is, I think, very, very important. Third and very important part, I would say, which was also touched upon by Samir, that data-based underwriting you will do only when you receive the data, right? You have to receive it. Who gives the data to us? Customer gives the data to us, right? Like Sabya said, that we have to live and breathe by the easy UI UX for the customer. That's very, very important for us, right? That how will the data request go to the customer? After the request goes to the customer, how easy is it for the customer to execute, right? Or will I have to go to the customer with a pen drive and get the data? That is not digital. Will I have to go to the customer ki print out laya ho, sign kar do sir? That is not digital, right? So that's extremely important, that how easy your system makes for your customer to give the data, because system will only work after data is received, unfortunately, right? System doesn't work without any data. You can do whatever at the back end, but agar data aa hi nahi raha hai system mein, so you won't be able to work at all. Other things I would say, which I mean, there is no need to specify. Hygiene things like security, I think, is a non-negotiable item. Entire customer data, more than the customer data, even a lot of bank IP also lies on these platforms. So security is a non-negotiable item, and one has to, like I said, it's an hygiene, right? There is no compromise on security. Any platform on which anybody has a doubt on any security aspect should not be looked at all.
Brilliant, brilliant. I think almost all the concepts or thought process I could think of you covered. The key point. Okay, so one of the feedback I'm getting continuously questions. So please keep sharing your questions. We will take it at maybe once we. I mean, I think the right now we are running 3:30, right? So we will take 15, 20 or more minutes, and then we'll take all the question and answers. So we will intend to take all the question and answers. What we will also, one other thing I was requesting is then हमें ज्ञान चाहिए, right? So the point I requested is that and we have थोड़ा जुगाड़ है. What I requested Ram is that if you guys give your feedback form and please give your feedback form. Somebody, I mean, Maitri, can you just share the feedback form? If you fill the feedback form, I think that the maybe the first 5 or I mean we let Ram select, but Ram will be actually spending 45 minutes with each one of you, the top 5 folks, and help you in your guidance. So not about platform, but anything which you want to know guidance on building your platform, journeys, anything else, because he has been helping a lot of startups in the early stage. So I thought it's best if he can also spend some time of the in the participant of the webinar. It'll be very useful. So I think and my request is you to fill the form so that we can get that out for you and reach out to you and plan it out. With this, we proceed, and then the question goes to you, to Sabya, right? Because you are providing and you are this platform is what you are taking to the market. So how do you go about doing this? What is your thought process? Because you're sitting on the other side, helping so many of the guys in the market to sort of go digital. So maybe you can help in your framework. How do you should the market evaluate?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak about this for the complete day, but in the interest of time, let me see how much I can briefly touch upon. See, one thing that we always see in our experience in the market is that one which I think Jignesh touched, I touched in my previous point is what all the clients whom we work with closely, the first ask or the first decision metrics for them is the experience part, that how good the experience is, and which is the screen that shows pretty much we have a platform which is very dynamic, and we touch upon this 5 key dimensions, which is the product, the workflow, the rules, experience, and external. And I'll touch upon it maybe each for a few seconds. So let me start with experience, because our client first asks us how the experience for the end customer when we onboard them. So that's pretty much the UI, UX, very simple journey, so that customer actually wants to share the data for you to make the decision. That's all about the experience. The next, where most of us go wrong, I mean, most of us, when I say both from the client side and as a partner, when we evaluate or when we implement, we look at it as a digital acquisition channel, and everyone, most of us on the platform business, us and our colleagues in the industry, we try to offer the client a digital acquisition platform, whereas actually the unsaid, unspoken agenda of our clients, the banks, whether it is Kotak or any large bank, the unsaid, unspoken agenda there is digital decisioning and not digital acquisition of data. So it doesn't stop there. So the platform should be able to address the entire digital decisioning metrics there, and which is where the rest of the thing fits. Basically, the workflow, how the decisioning can happen, it needs to have a strong workflow engine, which has the rule-based decision. And it should, I mean, because I feel now is the time when, as Jignesh said, it is cloud ready, it should be cloud ready. The platform should also be able to consume future perspective of data. So it should be future ready, as much you can visualize. Not that everything is possible, but as much you can visualize. So I think AI-based decisioning is also important. Hence, in fact, our platform addresses all 3. The business rule, which is the traditional way of decisioning, then the typical demographic and other linear-based scorecard, and the third is AI-based tool. So we cover in our platform all these three aspects, and I think this is very, very critical, and this is very important. The next is it should address all kind of products, not the current product, but you'll see a lot of programs coming given the current scenario. Like I see a lot of products in last 18 months, which when we talk of faceless, a lot of product design changed in last 18 months, the way it is offered to the end consumer. So the platform should have the capability to address those kind of data, not only from an acquisition perspective, but even from how it will be able to how you will be able to make meaningful data sets out of it, which will help the credit ops team to decide. So it is not just a platform that can give a good, nice feeling look, but as much is important for the credit ops team to be able to process and consume those data. So I think all these dimensions has to be touched by any good platform if you are looking as future ready platform. And then the last part is the external data. I mean, when I say future data ready, these are all new sets of data which we have seen in last 3 to 4 years, the advent of new sides of data. SMS is still the passe. Now I see a lot of further social analysis, spatial analysis coming, and some more psychometrics analysis that is still in an advent. I think it will become popular. So the platform should be able to consume this data. It shouldn't be a complete new build after 2 years. Then it's again a time consuming, and time is the key. So as far as when anybody is selecting a platform, all these factors should be kept in mind. And I think pretty much we touched upon all of this. One such important thing is when we are looking for a platform, and as the slide says, I mean, our platform also has a pre-integration with all the Perfios products and some third-party products also, because Perfios cannot cater to the entire suite. But pretty much we cover about 80-85% of the end-to-end life cycle in a lending life cycle. So whether it is individual verification, whether it is an entity verification, citrus verification, unemployment, any kind of customer credit assessment, which was our core till few years back. So if you see the fourth box in this, which is the customer credit assessment, which is typically all the financial document analysis, that was our core area where we started. But we evolved and we completely touch upon all of this area, starting from bureau. So all of this should be kind of bundled and pre-packaged and ready to consume. The only difference there is how you would build the journeys. It is so, I think Samir touched upon a point, is your platform ready to go live in 3 months? Now that's a big question mark. When you say ready in 3 months to go live, it has to be a journey which is pre-built, ready to be consumed. Most of the time, and not often than others, I have seen everyone wants a different experience. Now, if you want a different experience, it has to be built. It is not ready to be consumed. What is ready to be consumed is the data in a certain set. The experience bit, the experience layer, which was the previous slide was talking about, that has to be probably tweaked, customized as per you. And that's what I think we touch upon. Build as you go. I mean, and what you like. So we have different modules in our platform, and I think pretty much the platform operates in that fashion. So you have a channel or partner origination, you have a workflow management, you have invoice discounting, you have P2P, you have self-origination, direct lending, you have branch-based origination. So there are modules which you pick and choose, and then you build on top of it, depending on what data sets and for which program you want to consume a certain data set. And then you are going to get new data set. Let's say tomorrow account aggregator becomes a full-fledged ecosystem. So you wouldn't want to stay away from it. That will be one more data set or a data source from where you'll get in data. So the platform should be ready with that. You can't think of platform be ready at that time when the ecosystem is ready. So our point is our platform tries to think as much in the future, dive into the future and try to pre-build those. So these are all available as a pre-built data points and within the modules, some way or the other, this has been taken care of. So I think you can build pretty much, and the platform can scale. So ideally, what you look is at the end, along with all this, is the input finally that goes to the decisioning system for you to make a quicker, faster, cheaper decision, but not at the cost of taking an unnecessary risk, because ultimately you are liable for your own portfolio. So that's what the platform has to address.
Yeah, correct. So thanks. I think this is very useful, and I think you went through all the backgrounds and frameworks around that. Now, I think all of that is fine. I think it comes to saying that platform अच्छा है सब बढ़िया, but loan कैसे दोगे और किसको दोगे, right? The criticality is of rule engine, right? What is the rule engine, and can you use AIML around that? Um, I think I find that many people actually we would have made mistakes around that, where they wanted to lend on social scores initially, and many of them in an urgency have made mistakes. Of course, it's not that social scores are not relevant, but they have to be contextualized rather than jumping upfront on it. So I think my question first and I'll come to that, but maybe just one point. Somebody was saying that, can you share the form again? I think somebody sent a message to me. So, Bethany, can you just share the form again for everybody's feedback? That'll be good, because as part of the what isn't it? Basically, the top 5 guys will get direct access to Sabya for 45 minutes. You can have a chat with him in whatever context you're building your journeys and solutions. You can be from large bank, you can be an NBFC, or maybe Ram is your friend. So you can actually use his Ram time like that, right? So maybe I'm Ram. Sorry for using your name just like that, right? So I hope it helps. So please keep filling the form. If you fill the form, top 5 guys will get it. Now coming to the data points, right? I think the critical point I want to ask, Kiran, I hope you are still with me, because he was unwell. I've just buried. Kiran, you're there with us? We may have lost him. So I think the critical point is, okay, maybe Shrikant, you can check it out and then we see. Yeah. So the point is that when you use underwriting and you use this data for AIML purposes, with AIML or BRE, how do you choose, right? So maybe this Jignesh, to the question is to you. You can guide us saying that as a bank, when you take decision making, how do you sort of tell the business saying that we are doing it based on AIML? This is the logic we have done, because rules are good to say, right? Clearly you can call out, but how do you use AIML based underwriting? Any thoughts on that? Any views from your side?
Yeah, so I would say two things here, right? One is the BRE part of it, right? That is a BRE required for digital lending? Answer is a clear yes. A BRE is required for digital lending. A bank of our size, our smallest ticket size in a digital lending today is 3,000 rupees, right? And the largest ticket size is very large. So, that kind of a canvas, if we have to play, and obviously for a 3,000 rupee ticket size, like somebody mentioned, you don't have the luxury of the time and the money to do everything physical, right? Ki baith ke file dekh ke somebody will look at it. I mean, it doesn't make sense. You have to shut the business not because of NPA. Your cost to underwrite will be higher than your income, right? Therefore, what we have done, at least in Kotak Bank, we use FICO as the BRE, right? And I'm just giving a context here. I'm not saying other BREs are not there. I'm just giving a context here that if you have this kind of a canvas and this kind of a complexity in the organization, then you have to have a very, very good platform as a rule engine. I'm giving a context by saying that as Kotak, we are using FICO as our business rule engine, right? And anybody who wants to get into a decision engine will definitely need a BRE. That's point number one. Point number two, what about the decisioning, which is basis alternate data, right? Sabya mentioned social score, right? We are using telecom score. Somebody else is using some other score. So all those is all these are derived by AI and ML based algorithms. Now again here, what essentially we are seeing that we are not experts as financiers to derive and make all these scores, right? So essentially we are relying on a lot of partnerships here. Our risk team will do the back testing of data, and some leap of faith we will do, and then we will launch a 5 crore, 10 crore, 15 crore kind of a pilot, right? And the rules and the algorithms which are using the AI and ML, the output out of that is used to lend, right? And therefore, your BRE should be able to use those kind of outputs also, right? It will not be able to calculate everything, right? It is using an output provided by a third party. If I have to explain you simply, that somebody will give you a telecom score, okay? That somebody will obviously be outside your legal entity. Some other service provider will give you that. Your BRE should be ready to consume that, right? And then there should be an ability to write rules around it, right? There cannot be a situation that BRE cannot write rules around. Input parameters are provided to the BRE. It can then write rules around it and then decision the case. That's how it is. So to answer this question, BRE, AI, ML, or both, it is definitely a combination of both. It cannot be either or in the digital lending situation for the reasons I gave.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you, Dinesh, for that. So the question I have is that I think Perfios was always famous for from a data perspective, right? You are getting data from all frameworks, and your statement framework is obviously the biggest in the market. You've also entered Ram into the other segment, which means you have built a platform of BRE as well as AML engine, which is what you have launched recently. So maybe a good perspective for us to understand how exactly are you thinking about it and what credit decisioning can do. So maybe a quick view from your side will be very good.
Sure. Yeah, Samir. See, now actually, like what Jitnesh talked about it, right? So you will obviously you want a platform. So one of the part is with internet, right? If you're doing digital, everyone and anyone comes in. Like what Ketan talked about earlier, it was local. So you knew the behavior. Okay. Now, one of the part is early. Traditionally, there was a well-established model. You had a risk appetite. You know what was a part of it, and then you're able to quantify, define rules to say that this is the basis on which I will lend. Okay. Now, you're now consuming new data. You're consuming new customer segments. Okay. It is not just about data. Even the part is, as you expand your business, like Kotak is talking about lending 3,000 rupees. Think of what the fact is. Who would have thought Kotak would lend 3,000 rupees? Okay. Now, this might be a completely a new segment. Okay. Now you want to figure out what is the behavior of the segment. So how much of bad testing can you do? I mean, you can probably get, as long as it's your own data, and then you have a large base of database, like someone like a bank, like Kotak Mahindra Bank obviously has a large database, right? They can do the bad testing. But if you're a fintech, a new fintech, or you're getting into a new segment, okay, you don't have data. So which means that the challenge is, it's a chicken and egg problem, right? The risk and policy will say, was give me the guarantee that the data which I'm getting in the decision model that I'm building on it will not lead to NPA. Okay. Business will say, till I don't lend, I can't show you the behavior. Now it's a deadlock. Now in this part, your originally, which is where traditional models and BREs were about, I have historical performance behavior, I take the performance. So which is where when someone goes and talks about a score today, the most common question asked is, what is your Gini factor or what is your Gini coefficient? Okay, right? Now on a data that you have not dealt with, what will you give as Gini coefficient? This is my gut feel, this is the part. So what we realize is the biggest part is as the data is exploding in terms of new customer segments, new markets and all those things, and you're getting new data, okay, it has to be about assisted decision. So which means that we have to provide the mechanism on a platform where, in terms of, as even if you do a CUG, right? Okay, because you can't, I mean, like whether you're doing a CUG with your existing customer base or you're acquiring customers, you have to see, given some of the parameters that you have considered as factors that influence the decision. Okay, I mean, it could be as simple as a channel. Is Zomato a good, if I'm acquiring customers from Zomato, given the fact that their IPO is oversubscribed, okay, correct? Or that might be a factor to say that there's a lot of demand, right? Okay, all right. Or is Swiggy a better channel for me? Okay, that's a new relationship. There is no behavior, there is no past performance data. So that also needs to get monitored. So in terms of customers that are getting, what is the profile of the customer? What is the data? Okay. Now in Zomato, maybe your average spend is, let's say 800 rupees, whereas Swiggy, an average order maybe 150 rupees. Okay. Now all these things requires, because end of the day, lending is about risk management and you want to keep your risk as minimal as possible. Now, in this case, when you are dealing with unknown, it is unknown is basically risk, correct? So what we have basically built is an AI-based model, which is an assisted learning, where all this data comes in. You kind of test out, configure the platform and all those things. But as your applications start coming in, the platform starts generating a outcome and recommendation. You accept it or reject it, the platform will learn. So what typically with, let's say, roughly around 200,000 kind of applications over a period of 6 months or whatever this thing, your model gets validated. Now you can basically take this model and deploy it to say that let it do straight through decision. Even then, when it sees some variations, you still want a human to say that is this an exception that I need to approve or is this an exception I have to reject? Because one of the fallacy about digital data is the data is completely accurate and true, which is not him, right? So in all your journeys, you will always have certain elements which is non-STP, which requires a human intervention to make a choice. This is not about payment, right? This is about lending. Everywhere else in a bank, financial institution, someone is giving, the customer is giving the money, but in lending, you're giving the money and you want to make sure the money comes back. Okay. So which is where I think the assessment of risk with new data becomes important. And that's where AI model becomes very important to help in the process of accelerating. Otherwise, it is your pale last story. No one will go anywhere forward. Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. I was just thinking that we also do business, right? So, and business is always on credit. And maybe the businessman should also have these sophisticated algorithms, because I also end up NPAs, right? The customer is not paying, either paid really late, which is the typical collection cycle, or never paid, saying that we something has happened. So I think there has to be some usage of that on the other segment. This segment is not known, but when you are selling some product to someone, I think there should be underwriting journey. We only think of lending, but we should do with everywhere else. So anyway, so we move on. I think at this point of time, we are going to take more and more questions from the participants. So I saw a lot of questions coming up. And I think Chirag is one of the person who has a lot of questions. Before Chirag, you ask your question, I think I request everybody to fill the form. Matthew, you can share it back again. And as I said earlier, the top 5 guys will get direct interactions with Ram. And maybe Ram's your decision is final, whom you want to meet, right, as well, both sides. So with this, we move on to the last segment, which is question and answer. So I think I saw the question coming from Chirag. Chirag, over to you. You can ask your question, please. And you can come put your video on, introduce yourself and do it very openly, no cold stuff. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, Samir.
Yeah, Chirag, there you are.
Hi, yeah. Hi, everyone. So, couple of questions I had in mind while building a digital lending platform. That how can we use data?
Chirag, you want to give a quick introduction about yourself, saying because then they will.
Yeah. So, sure. So, currently I am leading a product experience for HDFC Bank across liabilities, payments, and lending products. In my previous assignment, I have built a digital lending platform, overdraft journeys, and overall MSME lifecycle management. So while doing that, there were many questions and challenges which I faced, which used to come in my mind, but there was a little previous benchmarks to take learning from. So this is a private platform where a lot of stalwarts are there and I can ask these questions. So first question I had in mind is, although we keep talking about alternate data, but I just want to understand if we take the example of say mobile phone data or a social score for lending purpose. So our banks or other NBFCs are using it for scorecard or deciding the loan eligibility of the customer, or as a hygiene to decide whether to lend or not.
Maybe Jignesh, you want to take that?
Yeah. Hi, Chirag.
Hi,
So, Chirag, it is both, right? It depends on the product for which you use the alternate data. Okay, I'll give you a simple example. You want to underwrite and you want to give loans to customers who are shown as salaried in your bank, right? as you work in a bank, I'm sure you know that not all customers who are marked as salaried ka salary aata hai, right? Big
Correct.
problem,
Yeah, very
right? With all the
yeah.
banks, right? Big problem. So now what do, right? It is tagged as salary to you. You don't know what is the customer's salary. Therefore, you are not able to give him a loan. Okay. Very, very unfortunate that you don't know the salary. So what will you do? You will run an internal scorecard first, okay? And you will say, okay, does this customer qualify otherwise or not? Okay. Assuming that customer qualifies otherwise, then you will use your mobile data, okay? And from there, if you are able to derive the salary of the customer, you take that as an input and you run the program. Obviously, before you start the program, like Samir said, a large entity will backtest the data. So all that you've done. After having backtested the data which the alternate data provider gives you, you will use that in addition to your scorecard, right? So that's how it is. I have rarely come across a scenario where purely basis alternate data, the lending is done, right? That will also come, I think, in the past, but right now nobody has the confidence that only on alternate data one will do the lending. At least in
Agree.
India, I have not seen it. In some other markets, it is happening, right? In Brazil, for example, there's a very large bank where this is happening, right? In Africa, it is happening in a small way. But in our country, I have not seen it so far that only on alternate data you do the lending. It is a combination of both.
So, Jignesh, a follow-up question. It's a very interesting perspective which you gave. So, if we decide to use the alternate data in the scorecard, so how do we decide at the weightage of this data in the scorecard? Especially because this is the first time the risk or policy team would be relying on this kind of data point.
So no specific rule, Chirag. You know, we have piloted, tested, and perfected the scorecard here. Because the weightage part is not even known through back testing, right? Nobody can say कि ये चलता है कि नहीं, कितना weightage देना चाहिए. The simple answer to that is pilot it for a particular program, okay, and then keep fine tuning the scorecard. In any case, even if you use a normal scorecard with a traditional data, we keep fine tuning the scorecard, right? At least in our company, scorecards keep getting fine tuned every 3 to 6 months.
Yes, sorry.
So it's the same thing. Sorry, somebody is saying something.
Yeah, I managed. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, nothing. So I would say, Chirag, there is no standard rule that how much weightage you should give. You start with a certain weightage, right? And then you keep fine tuning it over time, like your scorecard fine tuning.
Sure.
Yeah.
Second question I have.
I think we'll pause. If there are no more questions, then I'll come back to you. Maybe let others do it, and maybe Chirag, fill the form. Maybe the connection we'll reach out to you as well.
Yeah, I have done that.
Yeah. So next question is coming from Raktim. Raktim, you want to ask a question? Maybe introduce yourself and you can ask a question, please.
Yeah, this is Raktim. I'm working in Infosys Finacle from 1995, and so worked in all sort of banks and product. I'm mainly part of the product engineering. So I was listening, and that we are using various metrics and the alternate data to figure out the lending, the credibility of that. My question here is now with respect to the privacy of data, because initially one speaker told also that depending on the pin code, we can figure out how much electricity was consumed, and just taking it forward, that is useful, but shouldn't be somewhere in India we are seeing, or will we see a privacy part coming, that how much that rest, where do you draw the boundary? Have you seen any use cases of that, or any more lights on that? And thanks, Amir, for inviting me here.
Yeah, I think the focus was on primarily on data privacy and how can you manage. So, any thoughts from your side, maybe Jignesh or Aman?
Yeah, so I think Samir, actually, this is a pretty good question, because one of the part is it's important that whatever is the way the data is consumed and stored and all those things, right? Privacy is taken care of it. And as per the privacy law, it largely talks about the fact that it has to be consent based. The user has to have a right to forget. And the other thing is whatever is stored and used, right, has to be anonymized and aggregated. It is not about individual. So so that is where the element of it comes in. And that is where I think the large part of the law which is coming into place also covers both in terms of the personal data and non-personal data usage in terms of the privacy bill, right? So yeah, so that's actually an interesting part. Just like you talked about, like Ignesh talked about in terms of hygiene, right? Security. I think data security also becomes a very important factor going forward as you evaluate platforms.
Okay.
Just
Excellent.
one additional point I would say that, there are two parts to customer consent, right? One is the customer consent to get the data, right? Transparently, if you take a customer consent and you use the data, or you say that I have this data, I am going to share with a third party provider, and you store that consent, and obviously you show it nicely. At least for us, we don't show it in a small line somewhere. We show it nicely. We believe if we are the customers, how we would like to see it, we show it that way. Part two over here, that is, now let us say I have given a consent to take my mobile data as an example. Okay, 3 months from there, I realize that I want to withdraw the consent. That also has to built into your processes, right? It's not necessary that once customer has given the consent, he cannot take it back, right? Obviously, for 3 months, if you have the data, you have the data, you purge it later. But after 3 months, if he wants to go back and withdraw a particular consent, you need to give that facility to the customer. First, show him the consent properly, take the consent, then move, and after later on, if he wants to withdraw, there has to be a facility to withdraw also, if it is a continuous consent, right? So these are the two things one should keep in mind.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Next question is coming from Monali. Monali, go ahead with your question, please. And we will go for maybe till 4:15. I know we have crossed the time, but we'll take few more questions. I think I can see a lot of engagement. Questions keep coming in, so we'll continue for a few more minutes. Yeah, over to you, Monali.
Yeah, hi, this is Monali. I'm working in data science and analytics group in ICICI Bank. So I'm working for RIBG products. So seeing challenges like for RIBG customers, they are not able to build a full end-to-end digital journey. So how these challenges can be overcome?
So RIBG, she meant basically inclusive banking, right? So that's what she's saying. How do people
Like
include?
rural products.
Anyone who wants to take it on the panel side?
Okay. So let me take a shot at that, Samir. So the part is, see again, so this is right. So when you're looking at digital, there are two parts to digital. One is a self-service, but then there are a lot of customers who cannot be serviced on self-service channel. Now, if I look at the rural banking, all this thing, right? One of your biggest component is a business correspondent. Now, how is your platform geared for the business correspondent to be able to help the customer with his product choice, right? Can he pretty much capture as much of the information which is possible to provide that one? And more importantly, it is not just providing the information, right? It has to be also interactive with the business correspondent for the person to be able to answer the if there are any follow-up questions from the bank and all those things, that the business correspondent has an interface to see what is happening on the application. We ask information. The other part is, I think most platforms think about as English is the only language, but obviously with the fact that in India more and more as we go deeper into the markets, vernacular is very important. Even your business correspondent may not be most savvy with the English language, right? So which means that vernacular is another important element of the platform which comes in. The third element is, which is where kind of, I think this comes into the whole design part of it, is how do you handle for information with a complete visual interaction, right? I mean, using the symbols that people are most used to. And that is probably, I would say, is probably the future frontier of design in terms of the interface that a person can use it self-service. And I would say also the last part is, I think there is some companies who are trying to deal with this one, especially if you're not a smartphone customer, okay? If you're a feature phone customer, there's at least one company I know they've tried to do this for blue collar workers using the SMS as a mechanism. So that's a part. So that is more from a platform perspective. The other part is, here the next aspect is how do you decide? So here your data is not going to be, he may not have a very active income statement, okay? So which means that here you're going to depend on a lot more on alternate data, okay? So like if it is this thing now, if he's a farmer, okay, now there are companies today which gives you agriculture and satellite information about the state of the like a particular district, right? Whether what was the rainfall part of it, what was the crop performance, and all this, right? Which is to kind of assess the risk. So that could be thing. So that is where those additional data getting plugged into the platform becomes part. So which is where again, as you look at your platform, right? It is important to look at what is your overall vision over the next several years, like what Jignesh talked about. It is not that you can afford to buy a platform today and then say in 2 years or 3 years change it. You're kind of invested for a long time because it takes a while. So which means assessing the platform, does that support these kind of newer products or newer segments that you're going to, becomes important in your choice.
Brilliant, brilliant. I think I know that time is running out. Jignesh, maybe you can take the last question. We'll still continue with a few more questions because I see a lot of questions still in my queue. I think the question is coming is that we hear a lot about OCR technologies. Do you see it really getting used? And I think why Jiten's question was specifically around SME lending, but maybe you can give a generic view as well. Is OCR really relevant for the ecosystem? And then how can it be used for decision making?
Yeah. I'll take that. And I think it's a very, very relevant question. Can OCR be used for SME? That question also I will take. So yes, OCR as a technology, we as an ecosystem player, right? Whether it is Perfios as a technology partner or a Kotak Bank, all of us have no choice but to work on OCR technology jointly. There's no choice. For the simple reason that not all data is going to be ever available digitally, right? Paper will be there in India. Now, if using the paper you want somebody to keep data entering that anyway we all have been doing traditionally, right? Next best option is what? Next best option is OCR only, right? So OCR is a no choice thing. We all have to develop it, right? Having said that, OCR is not something which is ready and available, right? If you look at SME customers, and I know the drift there, that all the balance sheet formats are different. Okay, even if you look at salaried customers, salary slips have so many formats, right? Cat A, Cat B ka gina chuna company hai. We all know that we're in large salaried PL business. So OCR as a technology, we are very, very hopeful that it will help us automate things, faster, make our TAT faster, etc. So it has to be used. The only limited point on OCR is that it's something which is evolving. It will take time to build, right? We are using couple of solutions through Amazon, etc., to look into how do we develop the OCR technology. So it is something which has to be built grounds up, right? And people will have some kind of an IP, okay, with them once they build it grounds up. It will take time to build. If anybody seriously starts working on it and who has the data to develop the system and to train the system, I would say 12 to 16 months, you will be able to do huge amount of work using OCR. I'm talking about complex SME cases here, right? I'm not talking about simple salary slips, even though there may be, say, 7,000 or 20,000 variations, salary slip is easy. Even for SME, OCR can be used. My thinking is 12 to 18 months, hard work, focus, OCR should be used and will be used, and definitely an area where we don't have a choice, because we are not going to get data digitally. More than 40% of customers, you will not get his balance sheet through ITR or banking or GST digitally, right? At least for a bank like us, we are ready that 50-60% of the customers, we will deal with some paper for some data or the other. So there is no choice but to use OCR.
Thank you. Thank you. And I know, Jignesh, you are running short of time.
Yeah.
You can log off, but thank you for giving your insights. I think this is very, very powerful to all of us.
Thanks a lot. I am also very happy to interact with all of you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Jignesh.
Thank you.
And we'll still continue while Jignesh had to, and he's moving out, but we'll still continue with few more questions. Maybe we have time for maybe 3-4 more questions.
Samir, if I can touch on the point where Jignesh left on the scanning or an OCR, whatever we call it. See, primarily, I see it growing in two ways. One is it will be built grounds up in collaboration with companies like us. We are working on a couple of solutions. We have a solution for the last 4 or 5 years. The only thing is as pandemic hit, people realized that I am not being able to call my backend staff to do all those, and hence the demand suddenly spurred. So it was always existing. It's the way people have started looking. The second bit is how we have tried to solve, and how I think it is helping most of the large banks who work with us is typically it started with a hybrid journey. What do you mean by hybrid? Nothing but automated and then a bit of an checker concept where you still don't generate an outcome which has some errors for you to consume, because you're taking ultimately a lending decision, somebody to lend. So you can't afford to make any mistakes. So hence there is a checker concept. But slowly slowly and eventually, it has taken about 4 or 5 years of work with us also, is finally we have built rules and which is learning every day, and we can understand pretty much the similar lines, and we can pick up, and there you are very confident after a certain threshold that we see, we are very confident that this doesn't need any human intervention, even with OCR. So there we have how it is helping. One, it is helping in reducing TAT greatly. Second, it brings in a lot of cost efficiency also. So I think, and as so many words Jignesh said, in next 16 to 18 months, or let's say next 24 months, you'll see ML picking up in this segment as well. And slowly OCR, will work like anything like an electronic document pretty much. So, but as we say, it is not easy. There will be challenges. There will be new formats, new type of documents, new type of patterns that will keep evolving. But I think ML will play a big role. And we are pretty much on that path. I think we have come a long way on that.
Perfect. Maybe the last one, which is a bit tough one, right? How do you sort of balance the customization you need, the features you need, and the price you need? It's a game of ye bhi chahiye, wo bhi chahiye, budget hi nahi hai, right? So how do you manage that out how do the client manage things that launch it within such a way that they can balance it out? So any thoughts on how the clients can manage their expectations as well as the budget as well?
Yes, it's a tough question and it's a tough one to answer, right? See, fundamentally, it is like any other choice that you made. Okay. Now, I was just looking at, right, a question of buying an Alto versus a Rolls Royce, right? And many times you don't want to. Again, the other part is also the other thing is to look at it is you want a hammer versus a jackhammer. Okay, आपको कील ठोकना है दीवार पे, and then you say you don't get a jackhammer, which breaks the wall, right? So to understand what is it that is your product, right? So in a best case scenario is to say that this is what I want to start with. I want to build one product. I want to build a acquisition journey. Okay, and that is what is the part which is there. Okay. Now the other part is, why are you going for a platform? And this is what most people miss out, right? You're going for a platform because you want time to, forget the time part of it. The first part is finding tech talent to build something like this is an investment of 2 to 3 years, right? Someone will say, I'll put together quickly a website and I'll build a mobile app and all those things. It is not just that part of it, right? It is about acquisition, having a mechanism from which the data, whatever the application can be processed, decision can be done. It can be given to your operations team for them to manage. Okay. So any platform, I'm sure if you don't, given your experience also and all this, right? A platform fundamentally is a 2 to 3 years investment. Okay. And if I get as simple as investment of at least 10 people. Okay. So that is the part. So which is what you're trying to say, that I don't have the competency to build this one. Okay. And hence, let me first look at a platform. So that's the part. What people then, and the part is, but the platform has to continuously run. It has to be managed. It is not just about having a product. A product also has to be configured on the platform. And a lot of times, everyone wants to be unique in the way that they do things, right? Experience is very important, right? Everyone's identity, whether it is an individual or a business, you want to establish a certain identity in the market. You want to be in a certain segment. So which is where platform gives you the flexibility, but everyone, I mean, including us, right? If someone is telling, if we come and tell you that I will give you a platform where you don't have to do anything, okay, it is completely misleading and it's a myth. Okay, it is about, I mean, it is about that it accelerates your process, but it is an investment. It is an investment of a critical component of your business. Okay, just like as much as you think about raising money and managing capital and risk, okay, if you're looking at a digital platform, digital is equally important. So it is not about I built something and I got something and I'm done with it. I think that is a part which is where one is, so understanding that element, that where does the cost go into, okay, right? And it's a recurring cost. Now you're doing a cost benefit trade-off of having a platform and an advantage of using it versus hiring people and trying to do this on your own. Okay, that's a part. Second is, what are you building for? Can you basically do a modular approach where you basically pay for the modules by modules, right? If you want only origination, you want to do your loan management, all those things externally, okay, look for that one. If you only want to start with one product, okay, whether you want mobile interface, you want web interface, you want a DSA interface, okay, all those things comes in, right? The more features that you look for, the cost comes into play. And then obviously scale. If you're processing, let's say 1,000 applications a month versus someone who's going to process 10 lakh applications a month, the scale and complexity is very different. So I think these are all the factors. So it is not a straightforward answer, but I think understanding the part, I think the most important element is to look at that it is a core infrastructure for your business. Okay. And which means that it is always, you'll always get things which are cheap, but you want something which is sustainable, stable, and which will last probably as long as your business lasts.
Okay, and I hope business lasts forever, right?
Samir, if I can add one or two more points quickly. One is the biggest decision-making point is at what stage of business and product lifecycle you are. I mean, if you are at a very advanced, mature life cycle of the product which you are dealing with and the business is at that stage, you have to look at the scale and the resources that it required to potentially solve all your sticking points. There will be a lot of sticky points even after the platform is live. Now, if you have opted for a very cheap platform, you will not find resources at the platform end to solve those sticky points. Sometimes what happens is to negotiate so hard that you have bargained with the platform where the platform doesn't have enough resources itself to solve your sticky points. So it completely depends on what stage of business and the product maturity you are at. I would leave it at that.
I think that's perfect. And my apologies. I think I was greedy, so we have extended by around 15 minutes already. So I think with this we close. But thanks. I think we had two gentlemen who had to leave, and I think we have freed some more time as well. So integration left. But thank you, Ram, and thank you, Sabya, for sort of being there and continuing beyond the time. And thank you for that, and thank you for all your support. And thank you for all the participants here. I think. I mean, to be honest, I think you have been there through this whole journey. I typically, when you close, when it's coming towards close, you realize people are leaving, but I just realized almost most of you were till the end. So thank you guys, and we'll be back with one more very soon. Thank you, man. Thanks.
Thanks, Ramesh.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, everyone.